Hello again. Hope you're doing well. I'm Hardleg Joe, if you didn't know, and today we're going to be talking about the 2022 midterms. Now, previously on this channel, I made a video all about voting and whether or not it's even worth your time to vote. And spoilers for that video, I suppose, but my conclusion was yes, you should absolutely vote in every election. If you want to know why, well, you should go watch that video. There's a link to it down in the description. It's not that long. Now, one thing I didn't bring up in that video is who you should actually vote for. Which isn't really all that unusual. I mean, that's not really something that people normally do, right? These days, talking about politics is almost like talking about your sex life. Bringing it up in conversation is awkward enough. Going into detail about what you actually like is a step too far for most people. And that is a huge problem. Because politics is not meant to be personal or private. It's a group effort. The entire point of democracy is for all of us to decide the laws of our country together. And that doesn't work very well when none of us are willing to discuss anything. Now, there was a time when talking about politics was considered a core part of what it meant to be an American. We used to have a sense of civic duty, a sense of pride in the fact that we were able to control the laws of our country, unlike so many other countries out there. But somewhere along the line, we lost all that. We started getting shy when it came to talking about what we believe. And politics, along with religion, became private things, not to be brought up in casual conversation. And as a result of that, your average American started to understand politics less and less. Because we remained silent, we became ignorant of what the people around us actually believed. We stopped knowing the people in our communities. Now, I can't prove that any one group pushed us to be this way, but it's clear who benefits from our ignorance. It's the people in power, the wealthy elites. The less we discuss our world, the less knowledge we have. And the less knowledge we have, the easier we are to control. It's that simple, really. So if we want to break free of them, if we want a democracy that actually represents us, then one of the first steps is fostering discussion. Getting the people around us active and engaged in politics again. And we do that by explaining what we believe and why we believe it, so that people can take those ideas and test them, challenge them, improve upon them, and perhaps if they're good enough, spread them to other people. That's why today, I'm just going to be blunt and direct with you. I'm just going to straight up tell you who I think you should vote for and why. If you agree with me, then great. It's always good to have more allies. And if you don't agree with me, then hopefully this will at least get you thinking about why you don't agree. And perhaps, if you're feeling bold, you can explain why down in the comments or to someone else around you, someone in your life that you like talking to. And that'll start a discussion. The way I see it, this video is a success if I can get you talking about politics. Even if it's just to mock my ideas, having some discussion, any discussion, is still better than silence. So, with that long intro out of the way, I think you should vote Democrat. Pretty much across the board. As much as I hate the slogan, vote blue no matter who, that's probably solid advice for the 2022 midterms. And hopefully, only the 2022 midterms. Let me be clear here. I am not a Democrat. I do not like the Democratic Party, nor do I support most of their candidates. there are maybe a handful of Democratic politicians that I would consider to be decent. The rest are corrupt neoliberal millionaires. People more concerned with getting corporate donations than with actually helping the American people. So, why then do I recommend voting for them? Well, because like it or not, we're currently stuck in a two-party system. Until we can reform the way we vote, our only meaningful choice is between Democrats and Republicans. And while the Democratic Party is awful, the Republican Party is far, far worse. Anything bad I could say about the Dems also applies to them. The Republican Party is also full of corrupt neoliberal millionaires, ghouls who only care about making more money regardless of the cost. The difference is that where the Democrats have maybe a handful of decent members, roughly a third of all Republican politicians are actively working to make this country worse, in a variety of different ways. They have consistently voted to restrict and remove personal freedoms. They have refused to fight corruption or regulate businesses in any meaningful way. They have tried to remove funding for social programs that help the Americans they represent, and that's just their voting record. More alarming than that is how they have outright sabotaged our government by refusing to even allow the Senate to vote on things. The Republican Party has a policy of obstruction, of purposely making things worse while there's a Democrat in the White House. Because they know that many Americans don't pay attention to politics. If something bad happens, they will just blame the president without looking into it. And even if you don't like the president, that should still make you upset. Because it means your leaders are actively making your life more miserable just so they can win elections. It is the antithesis of what a politician is supposed to do. I could honestly go on for hours about every harmful decision that the Republican Party has made over the last 2 years. But there's one thing above all others that I'm most worried about. One thing in particular that sways me to vote entirely against them. And that's their stance on voting itself. Because you see, the Republicans as a party have consistently worked to make it more difficult to vote. They are actively pushing for our country, our government, to be even less representative than it already is. And look, I know the word fascist gets thrown around a lot when people talk about politics. It's often just used for anything that people don't like. But as someone who is fascinated by politics, someone who looks into this a lot, trust me when I say, there are members of the Republican Party who are legit, no exaggeration, fascists. People who do not care about the democratic process. People who have admitted that if they are elected, they will use their power to ensure that their party never loses again. It's not every Republican. It's not even most Republicans. But there are some. And the idea of anyone like that getting political power, the idea of anyone like that even being allowed into a party, is extremely worrying. If you've watched this channel at all, you know that I have one main goal politically, and that is to increase democracy. Not only do I want the people to have more power, I want them to have a real choice when it comes to using that power. I hate the two-party system. I hate having to vote for the lesser of two evils. I want something better, a modern voting system that allows multiple parties to compete. But the only way we can get sweeping reform like that is if we're allowed to influence the system, if we're allowed to make changes. And right now, there is one party that wants to make that much more difficult. And don't get me wrong, the Democrats are not much better. But at least they give us a chance at change. Getting actual reforms done is still going to be hard. It's still going to take a lot of time and effort and work, real work. But it'll at least be possible, because the Democrats aren't trying to take away what little voting power we still have. With the Dems in charge, we have the opportunity to fight for more representation. With the Republicans in charge, the fight will be to keep what we already have. It'll be a fight to prevent us from losing even more. So if you want the same thing that I want, a stronger, more robust democracy with more choice and less corruption, then vote for Democratic politicians this November. Not because they'll give us all that, but because having them in charge will open the door to it, rather than close it even tighter. At least, that's what I think you should do. If you disagree, feel free to tell me why down in the comments. There's usually a bit of discussion going on down there. Maybe you can convince some people that I'm wrong. Again, the whole point of this is civic engagement. I don't care if we disagree. In fact, I expect it to some extent. The important part is that you're thinking about voting, and you're getting other people thinking about it as well. It's all about getting that sense of engagement back again, that sense of civics and politics that seems to have faded from our country. But anyway, that's all I had for now. Thanks for listening to me speak. If you'd like to learn more about voting or democracy, you can check out my other videos. If you'd like to help this channel grow, you could consider subscribing or sharing this channel with others. And regardless of what you do, I hope you have a nice day. Until next time, stay safe out there.